Hey, and welcome back to Unit 4 of our Virginia SOL review videos. Unit 4 is Order of Operations, and this is a non-calculator part of your SOL. We're looking at Standard 7.pfa.2. And in this video, we're going to jump into essential question number 3. When evaluating an expression, how can you apply the properties of real numbers to prove your answer is correct? So before we jump into how we can use the properties, let's review what those properties are. So the main four you need to worry about here in 7th grade are the commutative, associative, inverse, and identity. And now the properties look similar but slightly different in both addition and multiplication. So all of these work with addition and subtraction. Multiplication and division are a little more selective. They don't all work with division. So sometimes there's some that division will kind of trip you up if you try and just apply the rules without thinking about what the consequences may be. So the commutative property, and I think I pointed this out when we went over these in class earlier in the year. Think about like a morning commute, going to work, going to school for you guys. Um, Going from home, point A, to school, point B. You go one direction in the morning, and the distance is set. You go the exact same way back home, it is the same distance. So whether you go from point A to point B or from point B to point A, your distance is going to be the same. And the commutative property says that that commute is the same both ways. So for addition, 2 plus 1 is 3, and 1 plus 2 is 3. That works for multiplication too. 2 times 4 is 8. 4 times 2 is 8. All right. The associative property, 2 plus 1 plus 3, that would give me 4. Oh, no, it does not. I'll jump into the next one. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 3 is 6. Now, 2 plus 1 plus 3, this one gives me 4, plus 2 is 6. So both of those give me the same answer, no matter which way I group it. So who you associate yourself with, if you think about it that way, 2 is associated with 1 right now, but 1 being associated with 3, you get the same result. So it's just think about like who's friends with who, different friend groups, okay? That's kind of how I remember which one associative is what numbers are associating with each other. For multiplication, that looks more like 2 times 4, which is 8, times 5 is 40, versus 2 times 4 times 5, which is 2 times 20, which is also 40. Okay, so that's that associative property works the same for addition and multiplication. Then we have the inverse property. So with addition, we have the plus sign. Subtraction is the inverse. So 2, this is a positive 2, minus 2, or positive 2 and a negative 2, cancel out to give me 0. For multiplication, 2 divided by 2 is 1, or 2 on top and the 2 on the bottom cancel out to give me 1. And now this one gives me 0 and this one gives me 1. Why is that? Well, the identity property for both of them, we have the identity property for addition. 2 plus 0 is 2. Look at that. The inverse and the identity property are kind of opposites of each other. 2 minus 2 gave me 0. Well, 2 plus 0 gave me 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Well, 2 times 1 is 2. Right, and there's one more that I didn't write down yet. We have the 0 property. I'm just going to abbreviate it. 0 property. Only for multiplication. And that tells me that anything times 0. So 2 times 0 is, yes, 0. Anything times 0 is 0. Okay, so those are the properties that we're going to look at and see how they're useful and how you can use them to justify what you're doing. So say you have this problem over here, 36 plus 7 plus 3. And 36 plus 7 is 43. And then we have to do plus 3, and that gives me 46. Now, that wasn't super difficult, but some people might struggle at first to remember what 36 plus 7 is, or to figure out what 36 plus 7 is. And that's okay. But maybe it would have been easier for you to do 7 plus 3, which is 10, plus 36, which gives you 46. Okay, both of them gave me the same result. So that was the associative property. The associative property, because I changed which numbers we're associating with each other. Okay? Looking at our next example, we have 36 plus 7 plus negative 7. Now again, that 36 plus 7 is going to give me 43 plus negative 7. And that's going to put me right back at 36. I could have grouped that a little differently, which would have given me 36, 7, and negative 7. Oh, well, that makes 0. That's the inverse property. And 36 plus 0 is 36. So again, both of those gave me the same result, but using the associative property, once I realized I had the inverse property, which let me use 36 plus 0 as the identity property because I added 0 and nothing changed. So all three of those properties got used in that question. And again, we could have just done it here this way in the first place, and really none of the properties would have been used too clearly. But if we had used the properties, it could have made it a little bit simpler and less going forward just to go right back where we started from. So that's how using those properties can help you out. And knowing, hey, I can do this because of this, knowing I can do this because of this is a really good tool to have in your tool belt when you're doing math, of knowing why you're allowed to do the things that you're going to do and doing it confidently, not just guessing at what's okay. All right, so let's move on. We're going to look at evaluating some expressions when we have these variables that we have to substitute for. And now, this has really been a struggle this year. I know a lot of kids just see A, B, C right beside each other. And so when I tell you, well, wherever A is, you put 3, and wherever B is, put 712, and wherever C is, put 0. A lot of you guys just want to go, well, A, 3, B, 712, and C is 0. There's my answer, 37,120. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not how that works, even though that would be really easy. When we have letters beside each other, or like down here, letters beside of a number with nothing in between them, I forgot to get rid of that. That means that there is invisible multiplication there. So really this is A times B times C. So you can either write it this way, you can add in the multiplication if you need it, or you can write them all with parentheses if that makes it easier to remember. Okay, so that's going to give me, again, I can write it either way. I can do 3 times 712 times 0, or I can do 3 times 712 times 0. Now, we can do long multiplication and figure out what 3 times 712 is and do it this way. Or we can do 3 times 712 times 0, because I realize, hey, the associative property of multiplication, and the 0 property tell me that 712 times 0 is 0. So this gives me 3 times 0. And the 0 property again tells me that 3 times 0 is 0. And that's my answer. I didn't have to do any long multiplication. I didn't have to do 3 times 712. I was able to just skip to 3 times 0 is 0, because I knew the associative property of multiplication would make that easier. All right, let's look at one more example. So we're going to evaluate 2a times 1 over a minus 4 when a is 28. Okay, so again, this is an invisible multiplication taking place. So I have 2 times 28 times 1 over 28 minus 4. Okay, now I didn't write it exactly this way up at the top, but 28 and 1 over 28, those are inverses. That's what's called a multiplicative inverse. I know y'all love when I use that word, multiplicative. 28 times 1 over 28, those just kind of cancel out, and they give me a 1. They become the identity. 2 times 1 minus 4 is all I have now. So 2 times 1 is 2 because of the identity property. 2 times 1 minus 4 becomes just 2 minus 4. And now I can just do basic subtraction, and that's going to equal negative 2. Right? And I was able to do this because of the inverse property. And then I used the identity property. And no, you don't have to write down, oh, I'm able to do this because I used this property. But again, it is nice and it is helpful to know why you're doing what you're doing and be confident in the math as you do it. So that's all I've got for Unit 4. It's all I have for this time. Go ahead and join us again for Unit 5 in the next video.